then you've got the microphone, you pick it up and do
Oh, yeah. Let me know when you're all ready. Very good. Well, the clean energy revolution that the Premier outlined on Wednesday for Queensland is a $62 billion jobs bonanza for Queensland's regions. 95% of that investment will go into regional Queensland, and Townsville sits at the heart of our plan for the Northern Renewable Energy Zone. It sits at the junction point of the supergrid, south to Mackay, where the Battery of the North will store those world-leading solar and wind resources of the north so that they can be used by heavy industry and households 24/7. Of course, west to Uwandon and eventually out to Mount Isa, where we will unlock the Northwest Minerals Province, bringing minerals here to Townsville so that they can be processed locally, manufactured locally, and exported to the world from our world-class port. Of course, the supergrid continues north from here into Cairns and the fantastic renewable resources that we see coming online there. This junction point, of course, is also where we have so much other infrastructure coming together. The new water pipeline, the Bruce Highway, the rail lines that come here to port. And so there is so much opportunity for economic development and jobs growth here in Townsville off the back of our energy and jobs plan. Of course, we also announced that Townsville would be one of the training hubs for the jobs of the future, working on our supergrid, helping us build our supergrid, making sure that Townsville locals, North Queensland locals, get their fair share of the jobs that will come with this boom by making sure they have the skills that they will need. All of that will come together to help Townsville to be a leading hydrogen production, usage and export hub for the state and for the world. And today we're announcing a major new investment with Horizon that will help us to build out that capability. With $5 million from our Hydrogen Industry Development Fund, Horizon will invest in 4 hydrogen-powered vehicles like this one, but powered by hydrogen instead of diesel. They will also install here at the port a hydrogen refuelling station. If we are to be successful in harnessing the opportunities of green hydrogen, we need to match local demand as we bring on those supply capabilities. This will also allow local companies to build up the expertise that will be needed for vehicles powered by hydrogen. It will allow us to continue to invest in that refueling network so that people who buy hydrogen vehicles can refuel them. And it will provide a training opportunity for locals to learn how this new technology works so that we can continue to build out our workforce capabilities. It's a fantastic announcement out of our second round of the $35 million Hydrogen Industry Development Fund, and I've been really pleased to work together with our Energy Minister, Mick Brenni, on it, and he's here with us today too.
Thanks so much, Deputy Premier. Well, it's been an extraordinary historic week for Queensland and our nation with the release of the Queensland Energy and Jobs Plan, our $62 billion economic transformation plan. And as you've heard from the Deputy Premier, Townsville and North Queensland really sits at the heart of the economic opportunities resulting from this plan. It's terrific to be here today with Horizon, one of its significant logistics depots. We know that without trucks, Australia stops. We also know that without low emissions fuel, our exports could stop too. And so the investment that is being made today through the Hydrogen Industry Development Fund to drive a reduction in emissions from these vehicles by switching them to hydrogen means great news for Queensland producers and Queenslanders themselves. We're advised today that this fleet, if converted fully to green hydrogen, could save up to 20,000 tonnes of emissions every week. That's an extraordinary contribution to our emissions reduction objectives and our nation's emissions reduction objectives. Just west from here, we'll see significant new renewable energy resources invested, around 6 gigawatts of new wind and solar connected through the Queensland supergrid. As you've heard from the Deputy Premier today, stored in the world's largest pumped hydroelectric scheme just west of Mackay. Eventually, we'll be connecting Mount Isa as well, making it part of the national electricity market, making sure that we're able to put downward pressure on prices for households and businesses in regional Queensland, but also making sure that we're able to open up the extraordinary resource opportunities in the Northwest Minerals Province. It's terrific to be here today as well with Les Walker, who is the North Queensland hydrogen champion. He has been the driving force behind establishing Townsville really as one of the hubs for hydrogen, not just in Queensland but globally, and I want to congratulate him for all of his success in achieving another significant milestone for this city and our state. And I know the Resources Minister has been instrumental in the development of the Energy and Jobs Plan as well. He knows that with green energy, the resources industry will boom. We know that the types of minerals that are under the ground, particularly here in North Queensland, will play a key role in the decarbonisation of the global economy. The cobalt, the nickel and the zinc that is plentiful in Queensland, manufactured with low emissions technology, will be globally sought after and incredibly competitive. I want to thank my colleague ministers, and I also want to thank our industry partners like Horizon, who are taking these steps to make sure that Queensland can continue to export everything that is terrific about our state and our nation to the world.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you to the Deputy Premier Stephen Miles, the Minister Brenni, and my colleague Minister Scott Stewart. The message is very simple, and that is, with good government investment comes a high level of confidence and the smart jobs of the future. Today we are talking about the green energy revolution, and I'm very lucky and fortunate to be working with Minister Brenni on the green hydrogen space here in Townsville, with so many smart investors, not so much internally with government, but more so in the private sector. Today, we're here at Horizon, who have seen the vision of the Queensland State Government, and they are going to be leaders in this space when it comes to the heavy transport sector. And we've seen what Sun's Metal is doing as well, and it just clearly demonstrates when you have a plan, a smart plan, to work with government agencies and the private sector, we get good outcomes and smart jobs. And I want to thank Minister Di Farmer as well. There's $14 million being invested here in Townsville to train our new green energy trainees, apprentices for the future in the green energy space, and we are working closely with the private sector to make sure we have got jobs to maintain these vehicles once that investment's been made. So there's two things in that space: the investment in these hydrogen vehicles and then maintaining them. And we have the private sector doing that right now, planning on the investment in land, infrastructure and the jobs of the future. Thank you.
It's great to have the Deputy Premier and Minister Brenni back in Townsville again, and it's great that we're actually standing here at the port, which is the largest commercial port in North Australia, because we know it's the port of Townsville that actually started this whole city. It is the lifeblood of our great city. And so when we see the investment by Horizon into the next generation of how we actually do our transport, this is great thinking. This is about the future, and it's about making sure that we've got the jobs for our kids who are sitting in our classrooms today, whether it's here at the port, whether it's on the rail lines, whether it's actually through our minerals that we will mine to the west of us here. As Minister Brenni has already highlighted, we have a huge abundance of the critical minerals that we know that the world will need to decarbonise their economies. What this will do, though, is this will give us the competitive edge when it comes to our what we call ESG credentialing, or the ethical sourcing of our minerals. This adds to us making us one of the world leaders in that ethical sourcing of those minerals. This is great news for Townsville. It's sensational news for the state. This is about the Palaszczuk government kicking goals and really putting us ahead of every one of our competitors domestically and internationally as well.
Well said. Did you want to say something about that? Thanks. Horizon? That's for last.
First and foremost, I want to thank the Deputy Premier, Minister Brenni, and the Queensland Government for supporting Horizon in this initiative. I think, to echo the words of the ministers, the reality is unless we invest in this technology, and Horizon is putting forward money to support this program as well as part of a $12 million investment in hydrogen trucks and fuel storage. We're working very closely with Sun Metals and their division Arc Energy to actually bring this to reality. We're a huge employer in this region. We love this region. We love our customers, and if we don't invest in this, our customers will suffer from the expansion of this industry. The boxes that you see standing around you right now, the products that they carry actually support the electrification and the energisation of a lot of the work that goes on in this state. This is the first part for us in a long-term investment. It's just one element in many that we have going on within our organisation to decarbonise our business and meet some of these goals, make them actionable and reality for our business. They'll carry a wide range of products. They'll carry zinc, copper concentrates, phosphates which go into the fertilisers that feed our community. They'll also carry sulphur and other elemental products that go into the processing of those metals.
Whereabouts will they be operating?
The initial trucks will operate here in Townsville, so they'll operate here at the port, so between the berths and our yard here at Port Services, as well as our Stewart terminal in about 15 kilometres up the road. In time, working with Horizon, working with the state government, working with our hydrogen partners, we'll look to the expansion of it into the northwest, but certainly initially here in Townsville.
So where will that fueling station be?
It'll likely be at the port. We're working with the port as we speak, trying to integrate with their master planning program to make sure that we've got the fuel point at exactly the right location.
How will this be a game changer for you guys?
First and foremost, it allows us to actually decarbonise the fleet that we have here. It'll replace 50% of the fleet that operates in Townsville with emissions-free hydrogen. So it's a huge, huge game changer for us. Our customers are very excited by it as they start to decarbonise as well. And so us taking real steps to actually decarbonise makes a big difference to them also.
When are you expected to have all the trucks?
We're working with a couple of manufacturers at the moment, the most advanced of which could put trucks on the ground in 2 years.
Awesome. And this is just the beginning, or will we get even more?
Absolutely. Well, that's our intent. We've got to stay at the front end of it. They're not as efficient as the trucks that we have today, and unfortunately, if we don't invest now, they won't invest in the technology and the growth and the improvement. So that's absolutely our aim.
So it will be a little bit more costly to keep operating?
Absolutely. This is very much a pilot project. Certainly, we're not looking to make a significant return from it other than for the emissions benefits that we get from it. This is an investment in future technology.
And who will manufacture the trucks?
Well, we haven't committed to a manufacturer at the moment. We're working very closely with a company called Horizon, as well as Daimler.
And 2 years, you say?
About 2 years is what Horizon are indicating to us at the moment.
So 2024 this time?
I'll be more inclined towards late 2024. The vehicles you see around you, which are mass manufactured, there's about a 9 to 12 month wait on those as we stand, and as you can appreciate, this is fairly new technology. These vehicles operate in Europe, they just operate in a different task.
So you don't have these in Australia just yet, is that right?
That's my understanding.
Well done, Townsville. Going first.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. True.
Thanks, David. We'll
Thank
go
you.
back to
Cheers.
you.
In terms of youth crime, believe it's getting worse and worse. Will you admit the current government measures aren't working?
The current government measures were based on what the police advised us they needed to crack down on recidivist youth crime. They're in place now. They are resulting in more young offenders being detained in youth detention. So they are working in that regard. If police advise us that they need further powers or further measures, then obviously we will consider those.
Why has the state government shelved its changes to the land tax?
Well, what you've seen is the Premier discussing with other state and territory leaders how this land tax might operate in practice, and as a result of those conversations, she has decided that it should be shelved, delayed until such time as we have agreement from other states and territories for how to administer it.
Is the government not properly consulted in the first place with other interstate counterparts and stakeholders?
Look, at the time these decisions were made, we didn't have those indications from other states and territories that they might be unwilling to assist us in administering it. Now that we have that information, the Premier went to them to discuss it further, and as a result of those discussions, she's determined that the changes should be shelved for now.
Do you agree with that?
I think that's the right decision.
Any chance of being revived in the future, do you imagine?
Well, again, that will come down to whether the position of the other states and territories changes. I think the principle of that measure made sense when the decisions were made, but since then we've had these positions taken by other states and territories that they won't assist to close that loophole, and on the basis of that new information, the Premier has made what is the right decision, I think, in the context to put those plans to one side.
QRC said with the lack of consultation, maybe there's a chance to have the royalties reviewed because of that. What's you make of that?
There is not. Those measures are very much designed to ensure that Queenslanders who own those resources get our fair share of what are incredibly oversized prices and profits right now. And we think that's incredibly important for Queenslanders. It's what will allow us to continue to invest in our hospitals, in our schools, and of course in our energy and jobs plan that will set our state up for the future.
The federal government has just announced that it's scrapping mandatory quarantine and support payments for COVID. Is that something the state government backs?
I understand that was discussed at National Cabinet. We've always said that we supported the lifting of those measures in line with the health advice, and as that health advice has now been received, I think it's appropriate that we lift it. We need to, of course, eventually get back to business as usual, and this is just another step along that journey. We've, of course, been a long way down that journey. This is one of the last remaining measures in place from the pandemic.
There's still thousands of cases, though, Deputy Premier. Do you not think that this could swing the cases to increase again?
Well, we're currently at a very low number of cases, and if you're not going to make these kinds of decisions when you have a very low number of cases, when will you? So we have been, for some time now, on a pathway to normality out of the very strong health response that kept Queenslanders safe. But we've had access to vaccines for a long time now. The virus has been through and around the community, and it's about time we started treating it more like all of the other viruses. So if you get it and you're sick, you should stay home. That's the case with the flu, with colds, with everything else that circulates in our community. And now that COVID is endemic, it should be no different.
The opposition has called on the health minister to resign in light of the Mackay Hospital report today. What's your immediate reaction to that?
Well, I think they need to find something new to say. I think they've called for her to resign every day for months now. Their only answer, ever, is that someone should be sacked. That was their plan in government. They sacked thousands of health workers, thousands of nurses. They picked those fights with doctors. What you've seen, I think, today is true leadership from the health minister. She personally went to Mackay. She has met with the advocates. She has stood up and faced a very difficult press conference. She's released this report, and she has, I think, if you watch it, she has issued a very heartfelt, sincere apology. I know that the health minister cares very, very deeply. She is upset for what these women have been through, and she has taken what are the appropriate steps for a responsible minister. Health boards run our HHSs, and they are responsible for ensuring the safety and patient care. And so by issuing that show cause notice to the Mackay Health and Hospital Board, she is putting them on notice that they are responsible for ensuring proper patient care. I understand she's also said that there are some lessons in that report for the wider health system, and no doubt she'll go about implementing those as well.
I just got a question on the energy plan. Okay.
Sure.
It may be better
Maybe Mick?
directed at the energy minister.
Sure.
But look, there's been a lot of people talking about the Burdekin Falls Dam. There's been long-held plans there for a hydro scheme there. There are professionals suggest that it can actually accommodate a very much larger hydro plan. So what's happening with the Burdekin Falls Dam? Is that now dead for hydro?
Well, that's a private sector project. The unique thing about Queensland is that our energy system is publicly owned. Here in North Queensland, North Queenslanders have stopped the LNP selling that off by voting them out of office. They've elected Labor to keep public assets like the energy system in public hands. And so the Energy and Jobs Plan commits full public ownership of deep storage to store wind and solar and return it to Queensland households and businesses when they most need it, putting downward pressure on electricity prices. The Mackay, the pioneer Burdekin pumped hydro scheme, is in the very best location in the state. We trawled thousands of locations, we identified the very best ones and we chose these, and we're working through the process of commencing the construction of that, starting with detailed engineering and design studies and working with the local traditional owners and the residents there as well that are affected. Private sector pumped storage projects can go ahead. In fact, there is one in the full throes of construction right now at Kidston in a disused gold mine, and our energy plan is about the backbone that we need to deliver to ensure that the customers of companies like Horizon can have access to the renewable energy they need to remain competitive globally. That's what we're delivering. It doesn't exclude other projects from coming forward. In fact, the Premier has said we think the Energy and Jobs Plan and the Queensland Supergrid will be a magnet for investment in regional Queensland. We've already committed that 95% of our investment, creating 100,000 jobs, will be in the regions, in places like Townsville here in North Queensland. We welcome other proposals. If they stack up, then they can proceed. If they stand on their own 2 feet, they'll go ahead under their own steam.
So to cut all that short, are you just saying that the Pioneer Valley site is a better site for a large hydro scheme?
Yeah, we think it's the best site in Queensland. We think it is an extraordinarily exciting opportunity for the Mackay region as well. Yesterday, we were in Mackay where we were at a steel fabrication workshop. They were very excited about the opportunity that our procurement policies will deliver. Remember, in 2017, the Labor government in Queensland committed to ensure that taxpayer dollars, wherever possible, are reinvested into communities like Mackay, like Townsville. That $62 billion is an investment back into regional communities, making sure that those businesses that employ all of you have an opportunity to do the lion's share of the work.
And so there won't be a hydro at Burdekin, which is in fact government owned. It's Sunwater and it's a corporation of government. So
no, that's not what I said was that if projects stack up and they're private projects, then they'll proceed under their own steam. Our responsibility, though, as a government, is to deliver an energy system that works for Queensland. The Energy and Jobs Plan that we released this week has been welcomed right across the broad spectrum of stakeholders, from the agricultural sector, the resources sector, the conservation movement, trade unions through our job security guarantee for workers. Yesterday, the Deputy Premier briefed mayors across Queensland. This plan has something in it for every Queenslander. As we've heard from the Resources Minister, it keeps us competitive globally. It will be a resources and jobs boom for regional Queensland. We welcome other projects coming forward, and as long as they can stand up, they can proceed under their own steam.
How many jobs will the construction of this refuelling station create here locally in town?
Dave, do you want to talk through? Dave, do you want to talk through that?
I think at the initial stage, it's really in and around the maintenance of the fleet from an ongoing standpoint, and then obviously the construction of the fueling station when it kicks off. We would have thought numbers in between 8 to 12 based on the partners that we're dealing with at the minute in terms of the construction program, and then somewhere between 4 and 6. In our own business, we have about 90 maintainers working for us here in Horizon in Townsville. We would see as our fleet starts to change over time that number will obviously grow. There's not many people in the hydrogen space right now, so we would like to think that will change over time. Thanks.
Just one more for you.
Sure.
Just one more, sorry.
Do you know when the Star Casino report will be released, Deputy Premier?
I don't, to be honest, but I'm happy to get an answer on that from the Attorney General. I'm not aware. I'm not sure.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that. No.
I just remembered that one.
Yes. It will be soon.
Yeah.
Not at all. We can do that for you.
Thanks for grabbing
I'll take that with us.